Hi. When I'm talking to people about social technologies and how you might use them, one of the things that I very often get asked is how do you get started if you're someone of my type of generation that's never done any of this stuff before? I think the number one thing that I say to people is remember it's about communication. And if you don't have a communication strategy, and you understand what it is that you're trying to achieve, then you'll probably go off in the wrong direction. So, you don't just go out and say, oh, well, I'll set up a Twitter account, or I'll set up a Facebook page, or I'll set up a MySpace page, and just go and try something like that, because almost certainly it's going to be a wasted effort. You have to really sit down and think about what's my goals, what's my objectives, what is it that I'm trying to do? Once you've done that, then the actual tool that you use becomes a lot easier to decide, and also the things that you need to do with that tool suddenly start to fall into place. And so if you take that type of approach where you work on defining your strategy first, then the tool that you use will follow. And you can use that time when you're first putting the strategy together to get more proficient in how you use these tools. So, for example, you should not launch social media or social technologies on your company without having a governance structure in place. You have to set the boundaries for employees about what they can do, what they can't do. That takes time, and that's something that can be done up front whilst you're working on your strategy. And then I think there are a few basics if you're, let's say you're in your 50s and you've never really used any of these types of technologies, how do you learn? The good thing about these community tools is there's lots of people in the community that are prepared to teach you. And there's lots of information and videos and blogs that show you how to do things. So you can find those just by Googling. And then there are some very simple basics to follow. Number one, it may sound obvious, but never ever put your home address or your home phone number on a profile. If you go to a site to create a profile, use a pseudonym, because you want to lurk before you jump in. Lurking just means you're going to read and see what's going on before actually posting. Because sometimes you'll go to a site that looks kind of like what you want to use or want to be involved with, and then after a couple of days of just reading various posts, you realise that it's aimed at something completely different. Well, if you've tied your company name to that site by creating a profile, Google will find it, Google will store it. So until you're sure that that's what you want to do, use a pseudonym, Mike1234 or whatever it may be. It doesn't really matter. But just make it an anonymous thing. Don't put your own picture up on a profile. Not until, once again, you know that that's what you want to do because it's related to your objectives. Lurk before, I talked about lurk. Lurk before you post. Learn what that site's about. And if you follow those kind of basic steps, then you won't really get yourself into trouble. You'll pick up how things work, read the FAQs on a site, because that'll tell you an awful lot of information about what goes on that site, what the etiquette is, and so on and so forth. And very soon you'll start to pick it up, and then you'll feel more confident about jumping in. Don't worry about everything being too polished. There's a whole thing in these types of communication tools about authenticity, about what is the real you. And the real you is somebody that ums and ahs and scratches their head or their ear when they're thinking. It's not a commercial. And if you go out there and you try and make it too polished, it's just going to come across as phony. So be yourself, say what you want to say, keep it respectful, and you'll be surprised at how supportive the community is at embracing that type of approach. So have fun, and let me know how you get on. Cheers.